Good morning, church. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm super nervous. My hands are shaking. My legs are shaking. Every part of me is shaking. I'm not a pastor. I'm not, and to be honest, I did not prepare for this till last night. The baby was doing a lot of activities during the week and couldn't sleep at night, so we're kind of stressed out. So Caitlin is at home taking care of her. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, and I'm not preaching. I'm just sharing a testimony. So if you come here to hear a sermon, I may disappoint you this morning. But I want to say, before I start sharing my story, I want to say thank you to the church, especially for those who brought food for us. That was a great blessing. Those rice, beans, tacos, you don't know how much that meant for us. So we didn't have to worry about food, which, sounds simple, but that's actually a lot of stress release for us. So thank you so much for that. I want to share a picture of our baby, our Marcella. So she's a little over a month, 5 weeks now. I was joking with Kaylin. I was like, and this was before she was born, Marcella was born. I was joking with Kaylin. I was like, newborns are not cute. They're ugly. I know how people, when you meet a newborn, you say, oh, he or she is so cute. But then when she was born, I was like, she is cute. Maybe I'm biased, but yeah. But I just want to say thank you. And a little bit about me. So this is my wife, Caitlin. We moved here to the island about 8 months ago. And I was volunteered to come here. Unlike Nicola, I guess you had a choice. You guys still choose to come here, but we didn't have a choice. Guam was the 6th on the list when Navy asked us to rank the places where we want to go. So it was not even top 5. And the reason why we put Guam on the 6th is because, we figured they would look into our top 5. The regular thought process is, okay, they'd look at your top 3 and look at your top 5. So that's why we put it on the 6th, because that tells you how much we didn't want to come here. But we're here, and I know there's a reason why God sent us here. It's because of this community, this environment, which I'll touch a little bit later as well. I'm thankful for God for bringing us here. So as I was preparing to share this, I was like, where do I start? There's a lot of stories, a lot of things that I could share that show God, how God has led me and my wife into the place where we are today. And my mom was just here to visit for a week. They left on a Wednesday this week. So when she was here, because I saw her and then she was with the baby, and I realized she's the place where everything started. So I wanted to share a little bit about her. So when I was 8, my parents got divorced. That was a pretty big negative impact to my life. And I didn't want to tell people at the time that they were divorced. And then every time when the parent-teacher conference happened at school, I'll try to find excuses of why they couldn't come together. And teachers are not dumb. They know. When you try to find excuses once, twice, 3 times, they know what's going on. So after they got divorced, my mom moved to Shanghai because that's where my uncle lived. And she was very depressed. She was crying. I can remember. And that part of memory still felt like dark in my brain as I recall those things. She was depressed. She was crying every day. She couldn't get herself to work, and it was just a lot going on. And I was about 8 or 9 at the time, and it was causing a big issue to me personally at school and how I reacted to my friends as well. So later on, she did find a job. She was working for Mary Kay, and then her boss was actually a Christian, but she goes to church on Sunday. So she invited my mom to go to church, and this is the church that we went to. Actually, at the beginning, I didn't want to go. So she started in Sunday, and then in China, it's very interesting because this is a government-owned church. I don't know if you've ever heard of that concept. The church is actually owned by the government. So the Seventh-day Adventists will worship on Saturday, and the Sunday Christians will go there and worship on Sundays. So it's a shared space for anybody who wants to come and worship. So she goes to the Sunday church, and then there are a couple times she was just curious. You pass by the church on Saturday, and she sees that, hey, the church is open, but she thought they only opened on Sunday. So she walked in, and she started talking to the pastor. Long story short, she learned the truth about Sabbath, and she started going to church. So she learned prayer, she learned how to read Bible and stuff like that, and then she came home, and she's like, Harry, let's go to church together. And I was about 10, 12 at the time. What I learned from school is that, humans are from monkeys, basically. I told my mom, I said, Mom, you're brainwashed, and you don't even know it. She didn't argue with me, because there's no point. And then every Sabbath, she'll ask me, hey, do you want to go to church? Now, let me give you a bit of the context of my life back then. So our school started at around 6:30 in the morning. I was in middle school. And it goes all the way to 7 p.m. And then we go home, have dinner, and then come back to school for a night study session. There's no classes in the evening, but you still have to be in the school, and then you have to finish your homework. So that night study session goes all the way to 9:30, and that's middle school. High school are even worse. The night study session goes up to 11 p.m. So there's no sleep, basically. And I told my mom, I was like, Mom, you want me to go to church on Saturday morning where I can sleep in? And this is pretty much the only time I can't sleep in the Saturday and Sundays. And also, our place where we lived was about 3 hours away from the church. So this church was in the middle of the city in Shanghai, and we lived on the suburbs. So we had to take 2 different bus lines, transfer to a metro in order to get to this place. So I was like, please, just, if you want to go, you go. I know you're brainwashed, you can go. I can't, we're not on the same page when it comes to beliefs, which is fine. I just want to get my sleep. At first, my mom was like, yeah, sure, then, because I was a teenager by then, you know how teenagers are. So, but later on, what she did surprised me. One Sabbath, she started kneeling in front of my bed and started praying. I was like, Mom, aren't you supposed to be going to church? It's going to be late. She said, no, I'll just pray here. And she was praying out loud, so I can hear it. I was like, wow, this is really tough. Well, I was a stubborn kid, and I'm still stubborn. I didn't go, even though she was praying. The second Sabbath, it's the same thing. Third Sabbath, it's the same thing. And then she started crying right in front of me. I was like, this is really tough. She was crying, praying about herself, about me, about the school that I was in, about my life, my study, everything. And I was like, could you not do this in front of me? Like, this is really giving a mental stress for me, because I can argue with my mom, but I can't see her cry. I don't know how many of you are like that, but I definitely cannot see her cry. So I was like, okay, Mom, this was probably the fourth or the fifth Sabbath that she did that. I was like, okay, I'll go with you to church, but I'll sleep in church. Is that okay? She said, yeah, I have no issues with that. I'd rather for you to sleep in church than sleep in bed. Okay, I was like, okay, cool, then I'll go. So I started going to church. This is what the church looks like inside. And I was always sitting on the left, right corner on the second floor. You know why? Because nobody can see you. And I can snore, I can do whatever, nobody's gonna pay attention on that left corner there. So this church was actually built by missionaries from the States, I believe. It can hold up to, I want to say 700 to 1,000 people. It's a big church. And I started going, and then I started sleeping in church. And what people don't tell you is that sleeping in church, for me at least back then, was much more comfortable sleeping than home, which I didn't know why. I was sleeping so soundly for no reason. Because when I sleep at home, I was like, okay, I need to wake up to do homework, I need to do stuff. But at church, I can sleep in peace. So after a few weeks, I started listening to the sermons, right? Like, because you will get involved, or I was starting to pay attention. It was 5 minutes at the beginning, then 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. At first, I was like, these people are all brainwashed. Where is God? I can't see God. And what's funny is that the first time I went there was an old lady. They were singing, everybody was singing. In my head, I was like, this lady shouldn't sing. She just shouldn't. But then later on, because a few of the older folks would want to sit in the same spots. So every Sabbath they would sit there. What I've noticed is that their tunes are way off, but they're so happy. For no reason. I was like, why are they so happy? They're old. I mean, please understand my thought. Back then, I was a teenager, right? So there's some different thoughts then. But then as I start paying attention to the sermon, I start asking questions. Why am I here? Why do I have to go to school? Why do I exist? Is there really a God? So all of those thought processes happened because my mom was praying for me, with or without me knowing. She was crying, she was pleading to God, and I was like, that's when I started questioning things. So I was able to find this verse in the Bible. It says, "Arise, cry out in the night as the watches of the night begin. Pour out your heart like water in the presence of the Lord. Lift up your hands to him for the lives of your children who faint from hunger at every street corner." So now as I become a father, I started getting to know why my mom did what she did. And it was a huge blessing to have her in my life. So that was how I became a Christian. It was through my mom's prayer, essentially. I did not have to do a lot of things besides getting up and go sleep in the church. But my mom did a lot of the praying and teaching and be patient with me as well. I was arguing with her about doctrines, about beliefs, because you have to know that in China, if you believe in Christianity, you're like the weird kiddo. So I didn't tell my schoolmates or teachers that I became a Christian. I kept that quiet. And there are certain times I felt shameful to tell people about that, because they may look at me differently, they may judge me differently. So later on, it was during a summer vacation. I was telling my mom, I was like, I don't know what to do this summer. Is there some place I can go, travel, whatsoever? And at church, there was a few church members who sent their kids to an underground Christian school in the northern part of China. I told my mom, I was like, maybe I should go, you know. At the time, I finished the Bible study at church, and I wanted to get baptized. And I learned a lot about God, faith, and surprisingly, the church that I was at denied my application to be baptized. They didn't tell me why, and I don't know why, but my guess is that because I wasn't 18. So my guess is that they have a list of people who wants to get baptized, and then they'll send that list to the government, and then they will have to approve it. For most people, that's okay, but because I was a, under 18 kid, my guess is that they denied my application. So I was talking to my mom, I was talking to this church member. I was like, maybe I should go to this school and check it out. It's a Christian school, it's an Adventist school, but publicly they tell people that it's a English and computer training center. But everybody knows that it's a Bible school, essentially, because you can't just put, we're studying Bible out in the public. So the second part of my experience started with a powerful community, which is the underground Christian school. So I was later on, after I get there, I learned more about Bible. And the guy on my left and the guy on my right, those were two pastors. They both have been to jail multiple times, and they're used to it. They see it as an opportunity to spread gospel. What's funny is that the guards at the prison know them personally, and they have a pretty good relationship till today, because of how often they go in there. And they become friends. Sometimes they even joke, the guard will joke, "Oh, you're here again." It becomes it's like a regular visit. So this is where, I don't know if you can see it clearly, but that pin drop, that's where I was baptized. And Guam is all the way over here on the right corner here. I was there for about 4 years, and I have seen quite a bit of pressure from the government and how they press down on religion. There are a few times where we gather together to worship on Saturday, and then there are officials. I believe they're police, but they were not in police uniform. So their government officials come in and interrupted the service, and then they arrested pastors. Now the word arrest may seem to be pretty severe, but a lot of times for the pastors there, they were being put in the prison for about 10 to 15 days, and they get sent back home. And then they'll do this again. So it's almost like a routine. Like every quarter, every 6 months, they go to the prison, they come back. Like everybody get used to it, in a sense. But what I remember one time was pretty rough, is that they had government officials coming from the provincial government. It's not the local government anymore. So they came in, these were police. They were in uniforms, they drove the police cars and everything. We were notified by a church member prior to them coming, and the timing was great. So we started evacuating the school. So a lot of church member came, took a lot of the students to their home. So when the government officials came, they were like, "Oh, there's no young kids." So I was there. I didn't get evacuated because I was older. And then the younger kids were all at church members' home. So we were okay because they didn't see kids that are 6, 7, 8-year-old. They see kids in middle school, high school. That experience told me that God guides every single time. Because the church member had some relationship with the government, he was able to notify the entire school ahead of time, and that's how we avoided it. The local government, it's funny, the local government knew exactly what's going on. We were studying Bible, Ellen White, and everything, but they just kind of, open an eye, close an eye. I don't know if that's a saying. They just let it happen. But the provincial government were pretty tough. They'll come probably once 2 years, once 3 years to check on us. This is the Sabbath worship. I still remember we'll gather out in the backyard. A lot of us are in the 10, 12, 13 age. I was probably 16, 17 by then. You can see the guy sharing his testimony there. And then this is one of the activities. This felt like a community where we follow exactly what God intended us to do. We were planting trees, growing vegetables, and doing stuff like that. And then this is one of the services as well. So the guy on the left there wearing a leather jacket, that's the pastor. Again, he's still there today, and he's ministering at a church. The school is no longer there due to different reasons, but last time I went back to China, they wanted to restart the school again. One experience I want to share through this journey at that school is when I first got there, I got sick. I had high fevers. Surprisingly, all of the 60, 70 kids in that school at the time kneeled in front of my dorm room. It was led by the pastor, but then all of the school kids kneeled down there and started praying for me. I was like, I've never felt love like this. Okay, you're sick. When you're at school, you tell teacher you're sick. They're like, okay, yeah, go home, take some medications and you'll be fine. Nobody really cared about how you feel or what you're going through. But that's the first time I felt, okay, everybody was praying for me. Everybody loves me personally. So this is the front yard of the school. It's not that big. It's very simple, and it's got classrooms on the side. And then you can see, I don't know if you guys can see the right corner there. Those are coals that we burn, because this is in the northern part of China. So it's pretty cold during winter. So we burn that to heat up the water heater system. That's how we get warm or heat during winter. That old lady there, she's the mother of the pastor. Matter of fact, she was in the jail as well a couple times, but because she was old, the government was like, okay, let's not put her through all this experience. But she has gone through those experiences as well. And this is the road going to the school. It's cornfields. And there's nothing around it, just in the middle of the field. So that's how God was putting us in a place where we can worship Him in a quiet space. There's no, it's far from the main road, and it's quiet. And this is the front gate. Again, it's a pretty simple place. This is the cafeteria. And this is one of the Friday Vesper worship. You can see that there are quite a few of the younger kids here. They're probably between the age of 5 to 10. And then there's even all the way on the right side corner there, that's an infant baby that the church adopted. So basically, he's everybody's baby. We just took care of him. The older kids take turns taking care of him. So when the police came, most of especially the younger kids at front here, you see there were a group of them, they were being evacuated because of their age. And then there are some older kids on the side. Those are the ones who can stay in the school. Because the idea is that you also want to show the government that there are students here learning computer and English. You don't want everybody to be gone, then they start questioning, what are you actually doing? When they were there, we had to hide our Bibles, our Ellen White books. And when I was in the school, we had this devotional system. I call it devotional system. We journal in 4 different types of ways, and then we had to hide all of those journals. And then we had to pull out our English books, our computer books, our Chinese books, to show them, hey, this is what we're actually learning, which is pretty funny. Now think about it. So these are all teachers. On my left-hand side, all the way to the left, that's my mom. So when I was there, I only planned to stay there for the summer. And then my mom later on came and actually became a teacher there. So we both stayed there for about 4 years in the school. I finished my middle school there, and then I went to the Philippines for high school. But this part of the experience told me, and I didn't realize this was something, that freedom of worship is such a privilege until I came here to the States. I'm sure a lot of us here who, a lot of us here who are younger than 18, right now you have a choice technically. You can choose to believe whatever you want to believe. You also can choose not to come here. You can choose to come here as well, but it's all up to you and your parents. I didn't know that. I was in China, and just imagine the same group of people right now we have here in the church. If we move everything from here to China, it will be a different story. And a lot of times, I thank God for the opportunity for me to go through that. And the reason why is because now I can appreciate how much I have compared to what I used to have. This was one of the teachers as well. And then this Bible verse, 2 are better than 1 because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. So as I was going through and thinking what I should share today, and I started to go back and questioning why God brought us here in Guam. We were praying, just like what I said, we didn't necessarily want to come to Guam, but now I'm here. I started wondering, and God told us because of the community that we have here. I was with Matt for a New Year's prayer, and I felt that this is the church that we all prayed together. And that helped a lot, because I know God knows everything that I've been going through. Everybody's going through something. And technically, we don't have to tell God what we need. He knows everything. But through prayer, I felt like I get closer to Him. And then this is the place where I believe that God has led us here. Plus, it's a great place to raise kids. So that's a good reason, I guess, for us. And as I think through my experience, to have a mom that prayed for me, to have been to an environment where I appreciated the Christian education, till now, as I raise my own kid, my own children, I thank God for the opportunity. And because there were a lot going through my mind, how I went from this place to the Philippines, and then from the Philippines to the States, till I met my wife. Now we're here in Guam. The biggest lesson I have learned is that to trust in Him in a way that no matter what happens, and this is also one of the lessons the pastors taught me, is that we tend to treat events that happen to us as good and bad. Like, we had cancer, or somebody had cancer, that's bad. Somebody had a promotion, that's good. Like, we tend to categorize things in a black and white manner. And God told me that don't do that. Instead, just thank Him and praise Him no matter in what situation you're in. So when the police came, they were raiding the church and the school. That's what the pastor did. And he set an example. Like during the prayer, he thanked those policemen who were doing their job. Because, I mean, they don't know better. They're just following orders. That's the same thing that I think is that no matter what experience I'm going through, the first thing I want to do is to thank Him. I was telling Pastor Mark, actually, we've been meeting twice now during the week, just to talk about life and stuff like that. I feel like life has been too smooth for me personally. Right now, I don't have to worry about things like money, financial, health. I don't have, besides, cold or fever once in the blue moon, I don't have to worry about cancer. I don't have to worry about this and that. I feel like God has given me a pretty smooth pass till, up to this point. I know that's not a lot of people's experience. You have sickness. And I was joking with him that, like, if I share this in the church, I feel like people will stone me because there are a lot of terrible experiences that people would go through. But I don't have those experiences. And then I told him, I told Pastor Mark, I was like, I am always afraid of something terrible that's going to happen because I have not experienced something that's terrible. And he told me that just enjoy it, man. Just enjoy it. I was like, oh, I can actually enjoy it. And I don't have to seek those terrible experiences in order to make it a good story. Because in church you hear good story, you hear good experiences, you hear good testimonies where people's life, it seems like going down really deep, but then God saved them and went up like really high. And Pastor Mark was telling me, it's okay to have a plateau or to have a flat experience as long as you thank God for it. So now I think about it, I actually had some of those experiences in the school. It was pretty dramatic. I didn't want to share too much detail, just to protect the school and everything. But there were some terrible experiences. One of them, I guess I can share this one, is that one of the kids died during a school activity. That was pretty dramatic. The government got involved and almost shut down the school and almost put the pastors in prison for life, not just 10, 15 days. But we survived all of that, and God saved us from all of that as well. So now, as I look back, I'm really thankful for everything that He has done for us. And what's interesting, as I was thinking, what's interesting is that a lot of the kids that you see here, this is probably 15, 17 years ago, maybe. A lot of the kids you see here are the leaders of the church now in China. And nobody, as I was there, I would not have thought about that. A lot of times, last November, when I went back to China, I met with some of them. They're church leaders now. They are the ones that leads the direction of the church in China. I was like, wow, God, like 10, 15 years ago, I would not have thought that this is what you're doing. And we praise God for this opportunity. And I continue to pray for the school that they want to restart. And please pray for them as well. They have a plan, and they want to start recruiting kids from different parts of China. Again, it's going to be a underground Christian school still, because the environment has not changed. It's still the same, pretty much. And it will get worse. And I don't know if you know this, but there's a lot have been happening in China with freedom of worship. And it's getting harder and harder. But last time I went back home, I was like, even with this tough situation, God is still blessing the church in China. And I don't know if you know, but one of the largest Adventist church in the world probably, is actually in China. And it's led by a women pastor. It's in the northern part of China. They have probably 8,000 members in that church. So in places where you think that there are a lot of pressure, and that's where the places where God is blessing the most. Now, I pray for them. I do hope that one day the situation can be better, but I also know that God is blessing them no matter what. So that's just my short experience. And as I was sitting there preparing, thinking this morning, my watch literally buzzed at me saying that I have high stress than normal. So I added this part just now because I want to share this. And so I started praying. I was like, God, why can't you remove my, nervousness? Like, I'm doing your work. I want to be, like Pastor Tenorio or Pastor Mark, or, can just stand here and start talking without any, issues. And God just told me, just when I was sitting there this morning, I don't want to remove those weaknesses in you, because that's where my strength comes from. I was like, wow, God, I don't know what to say. I really don't know what to say, but I thank him for the opportunity and for everything that he has done for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Harry. That was beautiful. And in honor of your prayer for Mom, we're going to sing the song, Sweet Hour of Prayer. Sweet Hour of Prayer. Only one day we'll understand how much our parents have been praying for us, that we can enjoy the communion with Jesus together. 478.